What's your name? You're not supposed to go to work.
Who are you?
All right.
There you go.
This regular meeting of the Mount Horeb Area School District Board of Education will come to order. The time is 7:06. Roll call. Danny?
Here.
Damon?
Here.
Kimberly?
Here.
Leah?
Here.
Jeff? And me. Dr. Solero, can you certify that the meeting has been properly noticed?
It has.
All right. Would everyone join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 2A, approval of the agenda. Are there any revisions to the agenda? Jeff has moved, and Danny has seconded approval of the agenda. Anyone, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, the motion carries, the agenda is approved. Items 2B, C, D, and E, approval of the minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes?
Motion to approve. Second.
Leah has moved, and Kimberly has seconded that I assume that you meant to approve all of the minutes, that all the minutes be approved. All in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it, the motion carries. The minutes referenced in items 2B, C, D, and E are approved. Item 3A, the student spotlight, Ella Fager.
Boy, we got a great one on our hands tonight. So I just saw the movie Avengers tonight, and I think they're missing one superhero. Ella, Super Ella. That's your new nickname, by the way. What a delight. Wait till you hear what Paul Christensen has to say about Ella. Paul, will you explain why you and your team selected her?
Absolutely. So this is Ella. Ella is a 7th grader here at the middle school. And when I talked with teachers, they instantly came up with Ella's name when I said we were looking for someone for the student spotlight. She not only is a fantastic student in the classroom, academically, if you were to look at her grades, but she also by far exceeds every expectation we have when it comes to work habits and being responsible and respectful. When I asked her teachers a little bit about Ella, one word that came to mind was kind, and just how positive she is, how hardworking she is. Speaking of hardworking, she's a phenomenal athlete. She plays basketball here for Mount Horeb Middle School, as well as on the club team that placed 7th at state this year, I believe, right? And that season is wrapped up, so she's taken her athletic abilities to the soccer fields, although they've been a little soggy in the hallway, so they haven't had a ton of games to get in. But I did ask teachers for some quotes, and I think I'd like to share a couple with you. So. She's positive, respectful, kind to others, and always gives 100%. Ella is a very conscientious student. She contributes to class discussions. She works well with whomever she is seated with. Students go to her for help, and she has a knack for being organized. She's a great student and a support to other students that are having trouble in class. She's also a loyal friend. Ella is a positive role model for her peers. She works hard, uses her time wisely, and strives to be a good student. She's always polite and friendly. And she also helped out with the volleyball team. Even though she doesn't play volleyball, she decided how could I contribute, and so she was the manager this year, and was just a super great supporter from the bench. She works well with everybody else. You complete every time with good quality, and one word that stuck out was you just got some real integrity.
I love you, wonder.
So just a fantastic, fantastic middle school student. So this is Ella.
Hey, Ella. Nice lady here to support you tonight.
Hi, Mom.
Mom loves you. Yeah, I can understand why. Hey, would you be willing to come over and take a picture with our board vice president, your administrators? Mom, would you be willing to join us too? I think I saw Miss Hanson here too. Miss Gorski?
Ms. Gorski has her homeroom.
Oh,
As well
that
as
was
I.
sweet. Oh,
Why not?
thank you. And Ella, as a small token of our appreciation and excitement for you tonight, we have this little certificate. We hope you'll keep that in your room proudly. And maybe let's go up here so that way we've got a little more room for everybody. We need another light. Okay, let you go. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, nice. Okay, 1, 2, 3. And one more over here. Thank you.
Congratulations, Ella. Congratulations, Ella. Great job.
Congratulations to you too. All right, that was terrific, congratulations. Item 3B, school news. Should we start with Kenzie or Dr.? Let's start with Kenzie.
Hello, so there's quite a bit going on at the high school this week. So this week is the start of AP tests for a lot of high schoolers taking like advanced placement classes. So today a big test that stuck out to me that I personally didn't take place in, but that I had a lot of friends in, was APES. And then throughout the week there's multiple more going on. But another thing was last week we switched our schedule around and built in an Aspire time throughout the whole week instead of just one period on Tuesdays. And that was interesting to do because they used it to have like sophomores and freshmen test during it. So that was interesting. And then it's our big junior prom this weekend, so a lot of students are getting ready for that and getting excited for that. And then, I had one other thing. I didn't get really notes. But the high school is getting pretty busy because they also, portable teachers are getting ready to move out. So that means a lot of teachers are preparing to have their test next week. So students are like, oh, we had prom, but then we also need to study for finals. So it's getting crazier as the school year is coming closer to an end.
Great report, thank you. Dr. Salerno or others?
Well, just a couple of quick items to add to that. When we meet again, board members, we'll have already had our graduation for the year. So Sunday, May the 19th at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, graduation will take place at the Alliance Henry Convention Center. All are welcome. We have plenty of room, no tickets are needed. And one of the things that I enjoy about our high school student body, amongst many things, chief among them happens to be their involvement in what they think is important and how to help us move forward. And we've had working this past year a student wellness committee that has been focusing on what kinds of activities can we do during advisory time that will allow students to come together and have conversations about things that are important to them around mental health and wellness, activities that they can participate in through intramurals and the like. And one such event is going to happen tomorrow. We'll break in the action for you guys through all that testing that's going on. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that tomorrow night is also a special evening. Title I will be hosting over at the IC parent reading night, a family reading night. Isn't that right, Katie?
Family reading night.
Family reading night, thank you. And everyone's kind of bringing in a book of interest. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so staff volunteers are selecting a book that's special to them or a favorite of them, and then families will be able to go choose classrooms. They'll get a couple of options or a couple of opportunities to go pick a couple of different stories, and then we've got Culver's helping us out with some custard and lemon ice afterwards.
Awesome.
And the public library is also going to be talking about their summer reading program to try to launch students into to do some more summer reading.
Thank you to you and your team for helping to organize such a wonderful event. And that's what I've got.
Great. Thanks to you, Kenzie, again for your report and for everyone else's report. We're on to item 3C, citizen comments.
None here.
None here. Anyone? Bueller? No citizen comments. Item 4A, recommendations and employee employment status matters, otherwise known as personnel transactions. Dr. Slender, do you have any comments before we consider these matters?
Motion to approve.
Danny has moved and Jeff has seconded that these personnel transactions be approved. All in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed will say no. The ayes have it, and motion, I'm sorry, we note one abstention from Damon. The ayes still have it, the motion carries, these personnel transactions are approved.
And that includes the addendum and the administrative content, right?
That's correct.
Perfect.
Item 5, consent agenda. Does anyone have any questions? Will any of these items pulled? Otherwise, I'll
Motion to
entertain a
approve
motion.
consent agendas.
Leah has moved, and Jeff has seconded the approval of the consent agenda. All in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed will say no. The ayes have it, the motion carries, the consent agenda is approved. Item 6, discussion items. The first is our school showcase. This meeting showcases the middle school with Mr. Christensen and Ms. Hanson. You're up.
All right.
Looking forward to your presentation.
Thanks for giving us a few minutes to sort of update you as to where we are at tonight. So we'll run through our goals and show you some data, and if there's some questions, don't hesitate to ask either along the way or as we get there at the end. I'm hoping you guys have this in front of you. Yep. Okay. So as you may recall, in both literacy and in reading, or excuse me, literacy and math, our goal was just to demonstrate growth beyond the previous year on a number of different things, whether that be the math test, the forward exam, SRI, any of those types of things. So that was our goal. And a couple of the things that we've been working on is the implementation of PLCs. We have made some good headway with that, but still have some areas to continue to grow with that. We've really increased our data meetings where we sat down and looked at not just groups of kids, but specific kids as it relates to how they're performing and then what interventions or things we can put in place to help them a little bit. So I want to point a couple things out on this graph for you, just to sort of help you understand what we're looking at. If you look at the bars down here, so the purple is the observed growth, which means that's where our kids grew from fall to winter. The projected growth is the diamond. So you can see in all 3 grade levels in reading, we exceeded or at least met the observed growth. The couple things else I want to point out are the circles up top. And the reason those are a little important is just to help us as we look through a few other things moving forward. If you notice the observed growth, that's these numbers. These are the projected growth, so as I said, we either exceeded that or met it. One thing that's important as you get to the middle school level is those numbers are pretty small. And you may see growth points at an elementary level of 12 or 10, of something like that. You can see for us at the middle school in 8th grade, they only projected the growth of these kids to be 1.6 points, which is just not a lot. Well, it's because we're getting towards that top tier of MAP scores, so the room for growth is just obviously much, much smaller. A couple other things that I will point out. This percentile right here, these right there, that's showing that our kids are doing really, really well. That's not necessarily a growth percentile, but what that's saying is that 90% of our 7th graders, our 7th graders are performing at the 90th percentile compared to their nationally normed peers. That's a pretty staggering number when you think about that. So on the low end, we're at the 87th percentile. The reason that's important is because I will talk a little bit about mean RITs as we move forward, which are the scores. So I think we can jump to the next one. You will see 6 of these tonight. These are readings. We'll start with reading 6, 7, and 8. So my point with these is obviously we know our kids are really performing extremely well already, but a couple things to point out, and these are the things I want you to look at in the next few graphs. This score right here is a 214, and that's saying nationally, 6th graders would be scoring at a 214 as far as their mean score. Our kids, 221. And the reason, the other piece of that, which this won't necessarily show you, is that 221 was a 217 in the fall, which means we've grown 4.3 points in that time. And if you remember, 1, 2, 3 points for middle school growth is pretty substantial. That's that whole, these numbers right here. So clearly our 6th graders are still doing well. Steve, if you want to jump to the 7th grade one, same thing here. Our nationally 216, we're at 225.5 in the fall. That was a 222. So that's a 3.5 point jump. I will tell you that these percentages out here that you see are pretty consistent from where we were at in the fall as well as last spring. So our kids are sitting at, 2/3 of them to 3/4 of them are performing at an extremely high level. 8th grade is pretty similar. 219 would be the national at 227.8, pushing 228 there. That is up from 226 in the fall. So we're still up a couple of points, which means not only are we performing extremely well, we're growing, and growing at a rate that's at least as what would be expected, if not higher, which is sometimes hard to do when you start to creep towards the top of those scores. So next we'll jump to math. Similar, we're looking for growth. Just in this case, it's in the area of math. So a couple of things we've done. The math team has continued to build on those goals that they set the last couple of years, and really working on some productive struggle in classrooms and group work and mathematical discourse. Then we have the same 3 graphs for math here. We don't have the first graph that showed the bars, if you remember. That one doesn't exist for math, and the reason for that is because we take a shorter math test in the winter, and math itself just doesn't calculate that for us. We will get it at the end of the spring administration, but we don't get it mid-year. So what we need to do is look at our growth once again in these various grades. 6th grade, this 228 right here was a 223 in the fall. So that's pretty substantial. That's a pretty substantial jump right there. If you can jump 5 points when really 1, 2, or 3 is about all that they would say they would expect. 7th grade, once again, well above where they are nationally, and this 234.4 is up from a 230 in the fall. And then in 8th grade, we're up just over a 240 as our mean rate, up from a 237 in the fall. So the gist of all of those, and feel free to go back and look through those as much as you would like, is that extremely high performing and yet still showing some substantial growth compared to really the national norm numbers. So that is fantastic. Yeah, and that's because of the hard work of our kids and the hard work of our teachers. It really is. They have really done some fantastic things this year. Jumping to our well-being goal. This one is one that we continue to try and grow on since the 16-17 school year. And the goal here really is to get as many kids, in our case 100% of them, to be able to identify 2 or more strategies to cope with the stressors of middle school. And then of those kids, if they need them, we're hoping that at least 80%, if not more, can show that the ones that we've taught them have been beneficial. So they may learn others through other things that they do outside of school, but at least for all of our kids that need them, at least 80% of them are finding the ones that we're teaching them helpful. So we've continued to do that through our advisory time, which takes place daily every single morning, whether that's our PBIS Tier 2 implementation, community circles, mindfulness, all of those types of things, as well as some real direct instruction about self-care, whether that's sleep, exercise, time with family, all of those types of things. And over the course of the next couple of weeks, we will be able to find out how we've done on this one, because as they wrap up their math testing, they log into a survey, which is just a couple of questions. It's asking them if they recognize some of these strategies. If they do, which ones? Have they needed them? And then if they needed them, do they find them helpful? So that's how we have surveyed our kids to see how they're doing. Missing anything there? No, we're good. Okay. And although this wasn't an official goal, I feel like this was worth talking about. And this, if you are unsure, is Melissa Piscatelli. And on her eye is a cookie. And so at one of our last staff meetings, our staff wellness group has decided to take a minute of our time at every staff get-together, meeting of some kind, and do a little activity. This one was pretty funny. So they have to sit there with a cookie on their eye, and the goal is to get it in their mouth without using their hands. Or dropping it on the floor. Sherry, Audrey right here, was just successful, as the cookies in her mouth is a little hard to see here. But if nothing else, look at the pictures. That's
This group has done some really amazing.
I'm sure that's a research-based.
It is, yes.
I thought so,
I think the best thing about it is that it's been small, little, community building, fun, nice recognition things that just bring all of us together and realize we all have a very challenging and yet rewarding job, and let's have a little fun together too. It's been a really, really nice piece. And as Melissa and I talked, I think it's reflected in our next slide. These are, I'll let you go ahead and take a look at them, but these are results from this, the wellness survey here at the middle school. And everything from feeling like they belong here to being supported to being treated with respect. I would say we would always love that to be 100% and everybody feels fantastic. And we'll continue to strive for that. But when I see numbers that are well into the 90 percentiles, and the other thing I would point out is, I put these here just for you to show. So the percentile is nice, but here's the numbers. And so strongly agree, neutral, disagree, strongly disagree. There's not one strongly disagree anywhere. And the couple, there's this one disagree, and that's one I think we'll just continue to be working on. And I think we try to do some things to support kids, staff, that's what our staff wellbeing committee has really strived to do. And we'll continue to try and get everybody feeling as though they can find some balance. But overall, I think we're very happy. People are very happy to be here. Boy, they work hard. And I hope they know how much we appreciate it, because we really do. So that's where we're at tonight. If you've got any questions, we're all.
And that starts at the top with the both of you. Thank you for the tone and tempo you set in your school, both academically, but then also the social, emotional well-being of our kids. Please extend our deep gratitude to your faculty and staff, and keep up the outstanding work. Wonderful.
Great job.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, thank you.
Nicely done.
Moving on to item 6B, referendum update. Mr. Reed, Mr. DeYoung, and I don't see Mr. McGuire, but,
You'll have to look hard, he's in Jamaica.
oh, well, there you go.
Mom.
Yeah, he's in Jamaica. Okay.
And here's a handout,
Mr. Reed and Mr. DeYoung.
oh, but I've got it right here on the overhead.
It's also posted, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay, no worries.
Didn't come out of the printer, so I forgot about it. I'm sorry.
Well, why don't we show the pictures first? How's that sound?
You have up here?
Oh, you betcha.
Oh, great.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so a lot of the fit and finish is ongoing at the renovation. This is a picture of the kitchen. This is the residence flooring throughout the kitchen area. New lockers have been installed in some of the areas that are ready for them. So this is down close to the elevator going down towards the ag wing. This is, look at the dates here. Now this is from the 16th of April, and those columns are done. All the brickwork inside that space is done, and they're continuing to do drywall and things like that. The terrazzo flooring is going in that area. They'll have most of the terrazzo flooring at least laid in the new commons by the end of the week. Exterior, this is the, I hope I say this right, Nichiha siding. It's a very dense cement board paneling that goes in there that kind of complements the color of the bricks. And then there's other pictures I think we'll see of the metal siding, which is almost complete around the whole structure. Bathroom partitions are in place. Fixtures will start going in this week. I've got all the paper towel and the tissue dispensers already on site, so these bathrooms will get fitted out and done here very shortly. The terrazzo. Interesting process. The black area you see there is kind of a primer sealer, and then beyond that is the actual terrazzo laid down. They mix it by hand, really very high-tech process. A couple different colors of gravel in a binder, and then they spread it out by hand. They come back later and grind it smooth. There's the metal paneling, as you can see in how it contrasts with the Ichiha. I just like saying it. The Ichiha siding. That's the above the shop areas. Skylights are in place there. The skylights. That's the light well from the upper floor down through the into the collaboration commons below. So all those are in place. And again, that was a few days ago, so those have all been drywalled, and they're finishing them now. So really, I know Kramer and the subs are really trying to finish up the upper floor as quick as they can when you get out there and get downstairs. The foundation and slab for the new greenhouse, the erection of that will begin tomorrow. Math room cabinetry, a number of rooms have got the cabinets in there. Countertops should be, sometime in the very near future. That's standing at the north end of the math hallway upstairs, obviously. As you can see, the ceilings are mostly in, light fixtures. They've got some painting and drywall yet to finish, kind of the central section there. Glasses in the windows, doors are hung. There's, I believe, the flooring starts early next week, mid next week.
Dave, somebody told me that there's something going on that wall that is still blue, that is still unpainted. Is that right?
That area will get dry. It will get painted just to look like the rest. We are working on a projector system for that would mount on the opposite wall and project an image on there. The original renderings show a very, for lack of a better term, a very large fathead of a Viking. I think a very expensive large fathead. And then we thought maybe it would be nice to have something that we could tailor to fit the season, whether it's sports or any other kind of activities. Still kind of hashing out what that will look like.
Awesome. Thank you.
This is a science area. I can't tell exactly which one that is, but you can see the casework is in place. The resin, or excuse me, epoxy countertops are in. They were busy putting the backsplashes up today and sealing the units in place. Again, they're moving really rapidly to get those areas done. Outside work around the upper commons, you can see the brick piers are in place. They're working on the rakes and soffits and fascia, things like that. They'll start skinning that with metal pretty quick here. And I don't know what goes between the brick pillars. That might be the metal. I think it's the metal paneling that goes between there. We have some landscaping work. This is adjacent to the soccer field. Back in there is going to be a dumpster corral. So they're making a retaining wall and enclosure for that. That's about as far as they got before the rain moved in over the weekend. So hopefully they'll get some dry weather and proceed on that. So again, here's some of the milestones that we reached in the past 30 days. The terrazzo is really more than just started in Area A, but casework on the second floor, residence flooring is complete in the kitchen and servery. All the skylights are indeed installed. Greenhouse foundations and slab are complete. Retaining wall, which you saw where the dumpster corral is going to go. Interior brick work in Area A, which is the commons, is complete. They've begun doing the courtyards. We talked about how the courtyards are going to look. They're beginning to get those things laid up and smooth. They want to pour the entire south courtyard later this week. Shipped ladders, those are some of the more vertical ladders that go in the shop areas. Those are in place. Drop ceilings on the second floor are almost complete. Partitions in place. And lockers are all in place on the addition area. Over the next 30 days, actually we have a weekly foreman's meeting that I attend, and today was the first day we actually started talking about, okay, on the 28th of May, you know, what are we going to need to have happen? A lot of things have to occur, and not just from the district's side of things, but from Kramer and their subs as well. The entire east side of the school, kind of where all their stuff is right now, has to be completely abandoned. They're going to get everything out of there because that gets bulldozed with new prepping for new blacktop back through there. They've got water supply and waste sewer to get replaced going through there. So a lot of things have, you know, those wheels are starting to move. We start talking about when we were going to unplug the modulars. You know, that is the 100 moving carts arrived today and got into staff's hands, and so they are anxious to get moving. They've been hearing about this for quite a while now, and you know, so people will be getting packed up and ready to go pretty quick here. Greenhouse will be installed. Again, that'll start tomorrow. Rubber flooring up on second floor, cement board siding in area A, which I assume is the upper parts. Maybe it's not metal siding that goes up there, but cement board. They will finish the ceramic tile work. The upstairs are 99% done. They'll jump downstairs and do the bathrooms next to the concession stand across the gym. They should be out of there pretty quick. They're going to begin the kitchen equipment installations. That area's been ready for them to install for quite a while now. We'll get the courtyards done. Casework in the lower labs are already in. I believe they're going to have all the casework done by 30 days from now for sure. And then we'll have all the drywall done in area A, which is the commons. And again, a real important one down there is HVAC startups will occur over the next 30 days. There's a commissioning schedule that they've got in place where we'll start kicking on some of that new equipment. A lot of good progress.
Dave, are we on?
Yes, we are still on schedule, so we're still scheduled to be substantial completion by August 8th.
And where are we at with the budget?
We're right on the edge, right? Isn't it? No, I just won't do that. I'll let Mr. Young talk about the budget.
I'm gonna look like Steve was So a couple things, budgetary, of course, we're under budget. A lot of purchase orders going out. You have seen, we'll see tonight, and continue to see requested approvals and quotes for technology, equipment, furniture, all those pieces that there's a lot of coordination involved, because not only are we creating those purchase orders, but upon receipt, we have to have locations in which to put all that equipment and all the technology. So Dave and his staff, folks in the building, folks at the district office are doing a really nice job coordinating where all this stuff is going to be stored. We all know storage is a commodity, and storage is really a hot commodity right now because we need to make sure we provide a nice, safe, secure, dry place for all of these items to go, and that they don't get caught up in the construction in the summer, because we still need to be able to access stuff when we need it. So kudos to you and your team and folks around the district that are part of that. One thing from a finance point of view, interest rates continue to go up. And so as I record interest earnings every single month, that does a lot to our bottom line. So at the end of the month, when we're looking at the budget, I'll be able to show you where we're at with interest earnings, not only from our investment CDs that are now matured, but also just our month-to-month earnings that we're getting in interest as well. So things are looking well.
And Scott, we do have a remaining third authorized borrow of about $5.5 million. And there's some conversation that the board will be having shortly around potential additional projects that can be done. We want to make certain we get the input and feedback of our community, and we're tentatively looking at having a full board presentation on that around June the 17th. Prior to that, the Buildings and Grounds Committee will get a look at that in one of their next meetings, but really are eager to outline what some additional scope might be with some of the savings that we have, and then encourage public participation as much as possible. So more information to follow. Yeah. Thank you.
And then just Scott, could you make a note, the next time you make a report to us, could we hear the balance of the contingency fund and the balance of owner savings?
Yes.
That would be, that wherever it's best.
Any questions for us?
Is the rain screwing us up at all?
I mean, I would be remiss if I said no, but it affects us less because most of the work that they're accomplishing now is inside. The retaining wall, some exterior brick. The siding up on the roof, when the rain stops, they can get back to work right away. So it really has less of an effect on us now than it did back in a year ago when we were just getting started.
Good, good.
When do the portables leave, so we know for our goodbye party when that happens?
There's a party. Well, so the plan for the portables is there will be no classes taught in the portables starting May 20th. All right, so Mr. Pennison and his staff have made arrangements for classes to meet in alternate areas the week starting May 24th through 28th. I couldn't tell you where those places are, how that worked out, but for the portables themselves, the 20th will be the first day that we start moving stuff out. We've got a plan in place for technology to go to a very safe, secure, dry place. Teaching materials will go to another location. Furniture, we're kind of up in the air where furniture's going to go. I think I have a pretty good spot for it to go. But we'll have contractors on site beginning the 20th to start disassembly. And I believe that IMS told us it would take them roughly 2 weeks-ish to get them off site. So, probably won't see a whole lot done over the course of the week from the 24th to 28th, but I'm guessing they're going to be moving up pretty quickly after that.
After the Memorial Day celebration that we'll have, I understand that the only entrance to the high school that will be available to outsiders will be off of East Garfield Street going into the fitness center. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So all of our high school administrative offices and student services offices are going to be relocated over here to the middle school. And that way our construction crew can work uninterrupted. So we're trying to get word out to folks this summer that from about May 28th, I think that's that Tuesday, all the way up through our parent drop-in night, which I think is August 27th, 28th, the building will be off limits.
So yeah, just the fitness center will be accessible. No other areas within the building are accessible without an act of Congress or something like that to get in there.
It won't be accessible.
Great. Any other questions? Thank you. Great job, as usual. Item 6C, debriefing on the community listening session regarding the SRO. This is our opportunity as a board to update one another on the discussion at that forum that was held on April 18th. Do you have any thoughts before we dive in? Or as we dive in?
Well, it's just suffice to say how grateful I am on behalf of our community that our board would take the time. It's part of your strategic plan, and not only do you have it in your strategic plan, you live that strategic plan. Let's say we had a good 70, 75 people here in the audience that night, and maybe this is an opportunity for people just to kind of weigh in on the thoughts that they heard from folks, and any subsequent conversation or communication you may have.
I thought it went really well. I honestly didn't know what the pulse on the community was when we walked in. So I thought it was good to know. I thought the speaker did a great job.
The officer from
Cambridge, yeah, I think he did a phenomenal job kind of explaining it.
I was impressed by the turnout. I think it shows a lot of how engaged our community is, and heard a lot of good things. Of course, most people, well, not of course, but many people were in favor. There were a few who expressed some concerns about it, but I think by and large, the people who attended were supportive of it, and that's great feedback to have. And I think there's great feedback, even folks who weren't as supportive of it, that's great feedback to have as well. So I was appreciative to hear their feedback.
I think it was very well attended. There was negatives, pros and cons. To some of the two parents that were very emotional about it, or needed, I don't know why things didn't happen by the rights of how the policy is written, but, it should have happened that way. I don't know what they knew how to do about that, but the speaker, he was very, very nervous. I was sitting there telling him, just breathe. His hands were shaking real bad, and then his legs were starting to shake, and I didn't need him to pass out beside me. But he did a wonderful job. I met him out here in the hallway, and we chatted for a while. He said it's a hell of a difference between an officer, a regular officer, and what he has to do. And there's still times that he misses being a regular officer, but at least he has weekends for himself. Was his main part of it, because we're stuck as a regular officer on weekends, floating weekends, nights, and it was good. I think he did well, and things went very well.
Other,
Yeah,
Go ahead.
two things that'll probably sound more negative. One was a concern that was shared with me by a staff member, and I shared that concern, and that was, I was a little surprised by the number of comments that immediately came from administration, and this is hard to say to a room full of my main administration, but it worried me a little bit that would discourage people from speaking if they felt the opposite, because their boss had just come out and said, I really think this is a great idea. So that worried me a little bit, that I would have liked to have heard from the public, and we did, and our administrators are part of our community and they're public. But I felt like we have a little bit different avenue to already get input from our administration, and I didn't want administrative input to outweigh the other community members' input. Am I communicating that, my concern in a way? But I don't have a solution for it, because I want to hear what they have to say, but I didn't want it to be at the expense of community or staff. That was one. And I think in hindsight, it's easy to say, well, maybe we could have asked administration to go last. And maybe that's not fair. I don't know. And then my second concern was more as a person who's been in the building a lot with an SRO, and I hope that we, no matter where this goes, but as we communicate more with the community and with each other, I hope that people are not getting the false impression that having an SRO is going to stop cyberbullying and physical altercations and the things that are going on. That would be a really big ask of an SRO, and I hope that there isn't some false impression in people's mind of, oh, we'll get this SRO and then X, Y, and Z are all going to stop. I don't want to make it sound like things won't improve, but I'm worried a little bit about that false assumption that people may, and having the speaker was helpful. He could give us perspective on what he did, and I hope that people got that message. But I hope people don't have that false impression that then, if we did this, a year later people could come and say, well, how come things are still happening? We pay all this money for it. So that's a little bit of a worry I have. Does that make sense? Okay.
Well, when we started our discussions on the SR, mostly it was just information seeking. And since then, I feel like we've done a good job studying data and listening to people. And I'm kind of wondering now, what else do we need as a board before we were to make a decision? Do any of you have any big outstanding questions that you feel like still haven't been answered before we could move forward either way?
I would just need to know from the village where they're at. one way or the other. And I'd like, you know, if we have an MRO, or we were doing an MRO, we have an MRO one way, but not for the SRO yet, right?
Great question.
I don't remember.
We do not have a memorandum of understanding yet. I think we thought that it would be helpful just to get a finger on the pulse of the community as to whether or not this was something that was worthy of just going to the next step, evolve, evolutionary, not revolutionary, and evolve. And I wonder, to answer your question, if I might pose a potential solution, and that potential solution might be if the board would be considerate of directing your superintendent to begin the process of developing a task force for the purposes of making a recommendation to what a school resource officer could look like for our district. And I think that that task force would have to include a wide swath of people on the issue. I think part of that would be having folks from the police department helping us kind of craft what we think would be a good working relationship, a good partnership. And then ultimately maybe make a recommendation to Safety and Wellness, the Board Safety and Wellness Committee, and then massage that. And then if that committee felt inclined to move it forward to the full board, then certainly we could do that too. I think we really need to go slow to go fast, and I think there's questions out there, but I guess until we start digging into what it might look like, maybe we don't know what questions to be asking ourselves quite yet. So I really appreciate your thoughtful question, and what else is out there right now? Maybe digging in a little deeper might help us understand what is out there. Just a thought.
Yeah, I think there will be a lot of details to be worked out, and to your point, there are questions we don't even know what to ask yet. And I'm fully in support of putting together some sort of a task force, and I would ask that we work really hard to make sure that it is truly a diverse group. It was a great turnout. I was so happy to see so many people come here, and it's pretty clear that at least as far as the people in the room are concerned, far more people are in support of it than would be against it. But there were some people who sent in written communications who expressed some very well-articulated concerns. And I think it would be important to have a good mix of people who are not only going to champion and cheerlead for this effort, but also those people who are trepidatious about it and are going to point out where the potential pitfalls are so that we can avoid them. And then to Damon's point, I think it would be good too to have some representation from admin, but not have the entire admin team on that task force.
The question that I had remaining still was, it's too early to answer, but it's the logistical one of what would the person's day look like? Really, how would we expect that person to be utilized? I don't know when the right time to it's a chicken or the egg question for me. It helps me decide whether I'm for it or against it, what that person will really be doing. But I don't know that we'll know what that person will be doing until all these other discussions take place, and if we decide if we're having it, then when. I don't know when the appropriate time for that is, but I think that's one of the things we express wanting to know.
Well, ultimately, we'll have to approve the contract with a memorandum of understanding with the village, right? And that would, I would assume that would, at least in part, detail what that looks like. I mean, it should.
Detail that would be.
I mean, it's extremely detailed.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I have to outline very clearly what our expectations are, and part of the expectations are, at least in sort of general pieces, what does this look like?
For sure.
Right.
Yeah, I see two products coming back to the Safety and Wellness Committee. The first of which would be an agreed upon job description that might get to those day-to-day, hour-to-hour operational kinds of things. The credentialing of the candidate, the ongoing professional development of that candidate. And then the memorandum of understanding gets to the how and what the agreement is between both parties. In my very, very preliminary discussions with the village, and I leave it at that as preliminary, is that there is a commitment for cost sharing on this. I know President Rothamer, Mrs. Lipska, who else was with us at that meeting that day?
I think that was just it for the board.
Yeah, I had a really good conversation. I think they're ready to work with us on this, and to use your words, I think we're closer on this than we have been in ever before. So if it's right for us, let's make certain it's right for Mount Horeb. It doesn't have to be a copycat model of what we see in other districts. We're Mount Horeb, and we certainly can do things as we think is appropriate.
So what I think we've identified what the next step is, and then it's authorizing you to move forward with a task force. It sounds like everybody feels like that's a good idea, but do we need to do something? Would you like for us to do something formal in order to authorize you to do that, or can we do that by consensus? What's your preference?
Thank you for being so thoughtful. This is a discussion item, so it need not, I think I'm hearing by consensus tonight that this could be okay, and then really the real action, I think, would be for us to come back to safety and wellness, and I just don't want to put a time limit on that, as I don't know what other schedules are like.
Okay, I guess the reason I asked the question is I don't think you need, go. I think what you're hearing from us tonight is, in terms of the task force, go.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to be sure that we were on the same
That's
the same page.
Thank you.
Yep. Any further discussion on this item? Great. Awesome. Made great progress. Item 7, action items. Item 7A, policies. On first reading, number 1, policy 421.1, legal age of kindergarten pupils.
Board members, this is something that has been proposed through the Safety and Wellness Committee. It also has tangents in the Education Committee. It is really reflective of the language proposed by WASB, and we'd ask for your thoughtful consideration around the kindergarten legal age.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Kimberly has moved and Jeff has seconded the approval of this policy. I think because
This is first reading though, right?
this is on, right, we have to have a motion before we have a vote though. So it's been moved and it's,
We can't vote.
We can't vote because Diana's not here.
oh, there's no vote. I'm so sorry. That's right. Oh, I was thinking something else. We've got one. Okay, fair enough. Sorry, go ahead.
And so, Mr. Vice President, if we could, we'd ask that if we could please move this back to, you're doing a great job, by the way.
I was so fixated on that roll call vote that I forgot that Diana wasn't here.
That's just fine. I love it, it's great, we're finding
Go
our
ahead.
way together.
Yes, we
And
are.
so similarly, then, the first grade policy that's being proposed, we're wondering if the board had any questions about that, or if that too could please be brought back to the board's June 3rd, 6th meeting, whenever the first meeting is in June.
You want me to do the third?
3rd it is.
Or the third, the May 20th?
May 20th. Is everyone going to know?
But it'll be a second
It'll
reading,
be
so
a
it
second
won't
reading,
matter.
thank you. May 20th it is.
I won't be here.
There'll be a second reading, so I don't think it'll matter. We'd love to see you here, but
I'm just letting you know.
yeah.
Thank you for that. Are there any questions that we can field for you? Thank you for your consideration.
All right, moving along, thankfully. 7B, consideration of high school camera recommendation. This was referred by Buildings and Grounds from their meeting of April 22nd.
Yes, board members, we're asking as part of our planned purchase for the high school, the addition of 25 brand new security cameras that would complement the existing camera system.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Been moved by Leah and seconded by Danny that we approve this recommendation. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor will say aye. All in favor say no. The ayes have it, the motion carries. This recommendation is approved. Item 7C, consideration of abatement and replacement of flooring in rooms 200 through 205 at the high school with referendum contingency dollars.
Yes, board members, we thought that this would be an important thing to do. We believe, I'd say with about 90% certainty, that this might very well be the last of the asbestos that would need to be abated in the high school. You never know until you do a test, but to the best of our knowledge, we think that this is where it's at, and we're looking not only to abate if there is, but then also to tear out and then replace the flooring in those rooms, please.
Motion to approve.
Been moved by Jeff and seconded by Danny that we approve the recommendation that rooms 200 through 205 be abated and the floors replaced in those rooms. Is there any further discussion? All in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and the recommendation is approved. Item 7D, consideration of HVAC work at the Early Learning Center with referendum dollars.
And this too is something that the board had planned and had communicated through the referendum process. It would be the heating and ventilation of the ELC as well as the automation system for that.
Second.
Moved by Jeff and seconded by Leah that we approve this recommendation for HVAC work at the Early Learning Center. Is there any further discussion? All in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it, the motion carries. The HVAC work at the Early Learning Center is approved. Item 7E, consideration of 2019-2020 CISA 2 service contract.
Board members, this is one that you're familiar with as it comes before you every year about this time. We're proposing just a slight change in the services that would be coming from CISA. About a $1,200–1,300 difference, less than what we've done in years past, and we're asking for your consideration, please.
Second.
Moved by Jeff and seconded by Kimberly. Is there any further discussion?
I just want, get that document? Sure. I didn't understand the notation, I just want to make sure I read it. So one of the first X has a no next to it, but the bottom X doesn't, so
Yes.
we're not renewing that one either.
So thank you. We're not renewing the Assistive Technology Academy, which was at this amount. Rather, we're going to use the Assistive Technology Library, and we're adding that.
Okay.
So it's about a $1,200 swing, maybe $1,150 swing, less than what we've done in the past.
Okay, so then how does that Title III consortium fit?
That we're required to pay based upon the size of our school, and I think that comes out in the weeks ahead.
But it doesn't say, doesn't have a check for renewal, but it doesn't say no, so.
We get to pay it.
Well, we don't have a choice.
No, that's correct. Yeah.
That's right. Thank you.
No, great questions. Thanks for your patience with my answers.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, the motion carries. The 2019-2020 CISA 2 service contract is approved. Item 7F, consideration of the district's 2019-2020 fee schedule.
Here again, board members, this is something we do typically the first meeting in May. Maybe I could just do a quick walkthrough of a couple of proposed changes for the board's consideration. The first of which has to do with bringing parity between the rate that our kindergarten through 8th grade students pay in both fee and annual athletic pass with that of what our high school students pay in fees and athletic passes. We're also asking for a bit of a reduction in our student assignment notebook in the middle school. It's gone down about 50 cents, going from $3.50 to $3. And then lastly, I'm so pleased that we have a school food service program that is self-sufficient. And if you know anything about other school districts, to have your own self-sufficient program speaks volumes of the great work being done by our Director of School Nutrition, Michelle Dank, and our Assistant Superintendent of Business and Finance, Scott DeYoung. In order to do that with costs, you know, when you go to the market, the food is a little bit more expensive, labor is a little more expensive. The proposal is to increase each meal by about 10 cents per serving next year.
And then 9/12 registration is going up, right?
To reflect that parity, yes.
Which one
Wait, where is it?
9/12, student registration fee goes from 50 to 55.
Right, to bring parity to the middle school. Right now, the middle school students were paying more money for the registration fee and the athletic fee than the high school kids were.
Jeff has moved, is it Leah?
Yep.
Leah has seconded the approval of the fee schedule. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed will say no. The ayes have it, the motion carries. The 2019-2020 fee schedule is approved. Item 8A, citizen comments. Anyone? Seeing none, hearing none. Item 9, future agenda items. Let's see the list. Item 10 is the schedule of next meetings. You can see those as well. Got the 2 committee meetings next week, graduation on the 19th, and then I think we've got a board meeting the following week. Which brings us to...
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Leah has moved and Jeff has seconded. The meeting be adjourned. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed will say no. The motion carries. The meeting is adjourned.
Just want to